That's funny.
So much stuff, you'll find times where some of those things come together and you find yourself thinking, huh? Crossovers have been around for a long time. Lots and lots of properties have had it in some way across several different mediums, and I love seeing them.
We have work to do. Lost another drone today. We've just about mapped out everywhere that is safe. After we make this pickup, we may not be able to go further out. Look, those things are company property. At some point, we're going to have to reclaim them. virtue, we won't be able to repair this one. We don't have enough parts. If you can understand me, stop right there. Put it in the cart. I've got this one. Lose me in the tavern, find me drowned in a boat. Tried drowning my sorrows and found that they float. Adapting intellectual property from one artistic medium to another is hard, which is Adapting intellectual property from one artistic medium to another is hard, which is why I probably would never do it. While film and television have a pace set by the collaborative efforts of...
Hi.
Oh, you're back on your feet. Just, keeping myself busy. Here, let me show you to your room. So, you can use the foundry to start making this place your home. It's only really good at raw materials, so you're gonna have to build most things yourself. While I fixed you, I connected you to the network. The facility will respond to your intent.
Where am I?
Why don't you ask Reason? I'm actually really busy, and I'd like to get back to it. His library is down the hall. It's the room with all the books.
Okay. Hello? Are you Reason?
Hello, yes. Welcome. Are you feeling alright?
I'm glad I'm on my feet. I can't say I'm comfortable here. I feel like I've been kidnapped.
Interesting. I didn't see it that way when I came here. What can I do to help?
Where are we?
Ah, here. It might help if we have a visual aid. So, this is Basement 1. You were just in maintenance down the hall, and you are now here in the library. We found you in Basement 4, which is unfortunately not on our maps.
Is the TV head in charge around here?
Computer monitor, no. Homewrecker has equal share of leadership.
Hey, Slick. Oh, hey. I see the empty child has woken up.
What?
Are you my mummy? Oh, gonna have to binge that together sometime. I'm... But you can call me Debbie.
Hi, Debbie.
It's pronounced Debbie.
Debbie.
There you go.
Deb and I run a book club. Everybody takes turns picking books, but we are the fastest readers. I'll get you a copy of the one we're reading now.
Did you know they made a movie?
Really?
Well, there are 3. One from 1926, one from 1949, and one from 2013. I see. Since they're all the same book, we could compare how movies were made in different countries.
Hello?
Did you find what you are looking for? You'll need help to get that open. It took myself, reason, virtue, and violence to set these here.
So, which one of you did it?
Whatever do you mean?
Who was there at the controls? Did you do this? Do you know how long I was down there? I was barely alive, so I genuinely don't know. You fixed me. Did you just feel bad and couldn't leave me to die?
Do you remember the others down there with you?
Not really. I barely remember my rescue.
Something terrible has happened to us. All of us. So before you point any fingers at anyone, help us focus on what we need to do to survive.
Reason told me I was found in basement 4. What is that? What is the entire basement complex, for that matter? I was on the ground floor.
Evidently, you fell through into basement 4. You were covered in rubble. Most of your body had to be replaced.
So, what? The facility suddenly got 100 floors deeper? Did we collide with something? Another facility?
You know as well as I do that collision is impossible. We are still collecting data on our situation. We all agree that until we know more, this room is to remain closed. In the meantime, I suggest you find some way to occupy yourself.
So what are you doing to occupy yourself?
YouTube.
And what's that then?
love to binge that together sometimes. Hi, my name's Debbie, but you can call me Debbie.